Means that Kathy's going to have to do the reading for the public hearing. If we have any yeas or nays for the planning and zoning map changes. Yes. Are there any questions on that? Is everybody clear? We have maps that were sent over through email. Is everybody clear on it? Yes. Go ahead. I have a question. Go ahead.
Southgate, the property manager, she wanted to know what the neighborhood, how would that affect the zone Southgate? Will it affect Southgate?
Well, first of all, I
Well, one time I needed a
Sorry, we can't hear down here. Speak up a little louder, we can't hear down here.
He worked out very well.
I said, I received a call from the property manager at Southgate, and she wanted to know how would the zone affect Southgate?
Everything that's there is no problem.
Your dryers are old dryers,
It's
so
not any kind of problem. They're zoned similar, very similar. And it's going to help Southgate because they get used cars.
do you want to look at this? 2 used cars. Are there any other questions? Is there a possibility, even before we get there, that we could pass this tonight? I realize it's on first reading, however, this has been floating around for months. If there's a possibility, we can please remain. We do have one member that's missing tonight. Mr. Trochiansky is excused, so we would have to have everybody in agreement.
I think I had one of these too.
Yeah, but I'm in agreement with the house that I had on Dunham Road, across from Mapletown. I mean, from Dunham Turning. You know, the problems, the calls we got from her, lots of calls, and wasn't too happy with us. I ran into her sister in church, and her sister said she was happy that Consul and the mayor finally took care of the problem.
Any other comments on this, and do you have a feel for passing it tonight, or just leaving it on first reading?
I think it'd be prudent to leave it on first reading. I mean, we haven't even had the public hearing yet. If someone were to come forward, why would we have a public hearing, yet decide prior to the public hearing if we're just going to pass it anyway? Seems rather imprudent.
Imprudent, okay. Any other comments here? Okay. All right, that'll be Kathy's, the council clerk will read that out for us. We do have communications. Do we have any committee reports this evening? Yes? No? No. Okay. All right. Moving on to the first piece of legislation, which is a resolution, and that is the authorizing the mayor to enter into a demolition program agreement, 2015-02, and this is on a third reading. Councilwoman Jones, do you want to make any comments on this one? Any comments? No. Okay, so we're good. This is the third reading.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
It was mentioned when this was first brought forward that we would be receiving more information. Councilwoman Jones mentioned that she would be bringing more information eventually, and that has yet to be disseminated.
Right, this is still being compiled.
Okay, so we're still waiting for more information.
The application deadline is February 27th. I went to a meeting with the county land bank that had the law director from Shaker that explained, the difference between nuisance properties and how to identify it and what you need to do for the entire process. So the suggestion of the county land bank and the county was to put as many properties on the list as we can, just so they're not sure if there's going to be around 1 or 2 or 3. So those properties may not all be demolished because each one has to have service. We have to notify the mortgage company, any of the lien holders, the state of Ohio, if there's any federal liens, if there's, somebody that lives out of state, all those people have to be notified and given proper service. If they're not, then those houses are not demolished. So they're gonna have to end up going through a different process, which either is through a tax delinquent process through the Board of Revision, or some other different way, or they're removed from the list. So right now, the compilation is just starting with identified properties. There's photographs of the properties. Once that's all compiled, council will get a copy of each one of the individual notices that are being sent out to these properties. There will be photographs available. I don't know if I can make 7 copies of each because there's over 1,000 pictures, and sometimes there's 4 pictures on each page, just to see what more than just the front of the house looks like, because a lot of them are either stripped, demolished, not demolished, but have fire damage. There's been data collected from the service department for the number of calls going out for boarding. There's been information gathered from the fire department of any type of activity that happened at the property, as well as from the police department, the number of calls that went through, considering the house as a nuisance, and or if they found an open door where they were able to either secure, or they were able to see water in the basement, or that the pipes are missing. So there's quite a long, tedious, overwhelming process going on right now. So the contract that we're going to enter in with the county is just saying that yes, we want to participate in this. If we do, all depends on the service and what we're going to end up having from the notifications that are coming back. And just because the application's going in doesn't mean that the very next day they're going to start tearing houses down, because it's the entire county. And right now we have notices sent out, we're waiting for them to come back, and it's going to be an ongoing process. So I don't know if that kind of answers some of the questions.
That's about as far as we are at this point, until we get all this. Is that sufficient for you?
I had a question that I think Ms. Jones can address. It says, it mentions in here the resolution from December where the mayor was instructed to apply. How does this, what we're doing now, connect to that in your own process?
The application, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I'm sorry. The application actually consists of 17 pages, which is in the process of now being created. There is the identification of the parcels, the end use of the vacant property, how the city is going to maintain that property, if we're targeting a specific area through either like a spot blight, or actually we're creating the entire city as a target area rather than just specifics, because we can only have 3. The application also includes a map that has to identify all of the land bank property that's owned by the city of Maple Heights, the identification of all vacant parcels, the identification of the parcels that are earmarked for demolition or potential demolition, and there's one other category which I think is the new parcels that we just approved to come into our land bank of homes that were already demolished. So what is really good is to see on a map visually. It's just so important, because you can just see where there might be a double lot, where there is maybe potential for some type of redevelopment. If we're going to target any commercial properties, as of right now we are not. And if there's more than a few lots on the street, hopefully council would be able to, outreach to some of the adjacent property owners for either side yard expansion. There's also a potential for some of the properties that are just single-story slab homes for people that want to age in place, maybe try to do some type of expansion in their home to maybe, bring the laundry on the first floor or do something. So right now, we do have the capacity to maintain any of the lots of the homes that are being demolished. So the application goes hand in hand with the contract. The contract is approving the county, saying that we do want to, participate in the program. The application is exactly what we're going to do.
And you also probably should add that we were encouraged to get our application in as quickly as possible.
We were encouraged to try to get the application in before the 27th so
Right.
that they could look at it, since they know that there's not an economic development person or somebody from the building department actually doing this. And the cooperation that we're getting both from the county land bank and from county community development is almost overwhelming. They're awesome. So they're pretty much leading us throughout, because it's a learning curve for me. And, yeah, and for anybody on council or everybody on council that's helping out, I mean, I appreciate that, and to all the departments that actually pitched in. So, even though the bottom line is we may have a full database of properties that are identified, the chances of all of them coming down are probably no. A good chance of those that we could actually get proper service on would make a tremendous impact on the just the viability of the street itself, taking down the worst house on that one street. Hopefully it will also increase property values, so in the whole application is saying, you know, exactly what this application and with these homes that are coming down as of nuisances and whatever, how it's going to enhance the city by hopefully raising property values, even though the structure's coming down. It's, most of these are still tax delinquent, so they're not a producing property right now.
Thank you, Tom.
And if I could just add one more thing, there's also a rule of thumb when you're looking at rehab on a property, especially when you look at the market value of the property, and you look at how much work needs to be done, as well as possibly an acquisition cost. And if it exceeds a certain amount, sometimes, you know, it just doesn't work for the house. And there's such a small amount that's going to be on this. Let's just say, for example, there might be 750 vacant properties. If 100 of them make the list, that's just a small percentage of what's still out there that's viable, that's left for renovation. So there's still 600 semi-healthy homes that are out there for people to pick up, like you did yourself, and do your own renovation. It's just a benefit when the fungus is gone. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. And moving on to 2015-05 is the rental registration, which I do believe we are going to hold. Actually,
Keep on second reading.
second reading.
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry, who's that?
Me.
Councilman Jackson.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, to law director.
Yes.
I'm sorry, did you look to see what the legality of this rental registration addendum was?
Yes, Councilman, we've taken a look at it. I'm comfortable with it. I am contemplating potential enhancements. With ordinances like this are subject to review. They generally are looking for an appropriate remedy and remedial action from an administrative level. And I'm contemplating providing administrative remedy for people who might want to contest that provision for some legitimate reason. And so I'm investigating having that appeal right, I guess, for lack of a better term at this point in time, so that if they had a reason to come in and they might be subjected to some scrutiny that we might not have contemplated, they would at least have the ability to present that to someone who can consider permitting an extension to their payment plan or an extension of time to get into a payment plan with the county. So I am contemplating making a revision to this. I'm just not settled yet because I'm trying to dovetail it into the county program that does provide for a payment plan for, and you provide in this ordinance that they can present that. And I don't want to jeopardize that payment plan through an administrative appeal right now. So just not quite settled with that yet. I just want to make sure, because they could come in and they might be in like the last 6 months of the county plan, and I don't want to have an administrative right to work on an extension of one of the. So we just got to work on that language. And I may not make any change at all depending on the county. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Jackson.
I'd like to make a suggestion that we either table this or put it in committee until that information is forthcoming.
Madam Madam Chair, if I could do that. I'm not going to have any objection to that if I don't have things clarified by third reading. And that's why I was just thinking I might be able to have that resolved by your first meeting in March, which is still third reading. If we weren't clarified by then, we can go through that period that as well.
I just don't want to get it the day before the council meeting and not have enough time to look over it before that third reading is up.
And I appreciate that.
Come to the table.
You always have the ability to extend that by table at that time if you need more time. I'm trying to get information out of the county and coordinate with them is sometimes a difficult task, so we'll continue to endeavor.
And Councilman Jackson, we always have the packets ready by Friday, so it would not be the day before. We would have it in advance, so you would have an opportunity to question, but it would definitely not be the day before.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this? Go ahead, Councilman Adams.
I had a few phone calls on this from residents, and they've seen this ordinance, and they asked me about it. I explained it, and they thought it was about time that we took action against these taxpayers, renters, owners, landlords, and make them pay their taxes.
Positive comments. Good.
Positive comment.
Good. Okay, 2015-07 is, we just talked about that. That's the zoning that planning and zoning has been working on for several months, trying to get everything in order so that we don't have spot zoning, which has been going on in this area for a long time. And this was actually started with the Hertz company who wanted to move in and needed to have some variances. So this is an excellent, I think, program that we are finally taking up. But as it was noted, we'll put this on first reading. Anybody has any questions? We can do it now.
Is it, Madam Chair?
Yes, also, I do need to know, I do need to tell you that this has to be passed within the next 30 days. So this can be a first reading, but we do need to pass this at our March meeting. Okay, there was a question back here somewhere. Mr. Brown.
Is it possible to amend this or include other changes
No.
within this
No,
ordinance?
no.
I already
So-
gave notice, 200 notices for those two.
So then they would have to go, if there were to be any other change, they have to start, or originate rather, with the Planning and Zoning Commission, the process, say through the same process this went through. Is it possible for council to originate changes themselves?
We definitely wanted this to go through the planning and zoning because they are the ones that work with it. If there's some kind of an objection, it would, or an appeal, it comes to council. But it's planning, and that's the body that planning and zoning, that is their duties. Now, we have been talking about this in planning and zoning for several months now. So if something which was going to come forward, I imagine it should have been done at that time, for suggestion. The answer is no. And if you turn your expenditures over $1,000, anything that pops out that you have a question.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Jackson?
2015-16, in the ambulance building, see, it looked like the software says 3 or 5, so there's 2 more versions or something to come with this. When will that be?
Well, that's the fire chief. Can you answer that, please?
It's a 5-year contract, so this will be the 3rd year of the 5-year contract. I believe that's what that was referring to, year 3 of 5.
Are these just updates or?
We have to use software for our ambulance billing and ambulance record keeping with the state, and we have to lease those programs, and that's what the charges for that.
Any other questions on the expenditures? Are there any other comments this evening that you'd like to bring forward before we begin our meeting?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Councilman Brownlee?
It's a question. Will we be receiving any further updates on the status of the city as concerns the fiscal emergency declaration?
Updates?
Yeah, as far as maybe timeline, what steps will be taken next, et cetera.
I can give you the timeline which comes out. We can read that for you if you'd like. Do you have it with you?
It was sent to all council members, and you know that document, everyone.
That's right.
You did not receive it.
A timeline? No, I have not received one.
Well, it stated in the procedures, if you look in your packet, it had the fiscal distress.
Well, you're talking about the text from the website, from their website?
Yeah.
No, I was looking for something a little more specific than their description from their website.
Well, let me just say this, it came from the state of the Auditor State website, so I feel that it's credible. And also what is stated in there, when you read it, is that there are several steps. It tells you those steps. It tells you how you proceed through the fiscal emergency. It tells how you enter and how you get out of it. So I'm not sure what you're asking. I mean, for example, it's you set up a committee, and then the commission, and then they meet. You have 120 days from the first meeting, so I'm not sure what you want other than that.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Brownlee.
When do we expect this commission to be appointed?
Well, we just heard the news on Friday, holiday, and the mayor wasn't here until he was back in town on Sunday. The holiday when City Hall was closed, I'm sorry, on Sunday, City Hall was closed on Monday. We have yet to have an opportunity to arrange meetings for our budget, which is actually imperative at this point. That has to be handled by the 31st, March 31st. So that would be first, and then we will begin to look at dates and times. So once we get some opportunity to go over the residents or the other outside folks that will be coming in, but we have not had an opportunity to sit down and do any of this. I can't give you a date.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Councilman Jackson, go ahead.
I think one of the things I know that is of interest to me is how this commission and council looking and trying to approve our budget, how those two things interact with each other. Do we do our budget, give it to them, they do their own, if they conflict in any way, shape, or form, how are those things handled?
That's an excellent question. Can you answer
We
that?
do both. We prepare a budget, and it's separate to their approval. And yes, they gather their own document. They've been here over a year, I would say at least 15, 16 months. The auditors have been on site, and they review the transactions, they review all of the fiscal reports and data. And so basically, yes, they prepare their own, and they compare it to the cities. So both of those actions will take place.
Madam Chair, is there foreseen a time where council and this commission would be around the table at one time and kind of back and forth to kind of agree on what we're doing, where dollars fit in certain categories?
You know, this is going to be a new process for all of us, and I think we're going to have to feel our way through it. So we have yet to sit down, and there are also other folks who have been through this that we will probably look to for some maybe guidance, direction, or how did you do this, what did you do first? And also, I think our finance director has been involved in it as well.
Basically, Councilman Jackson, what happens is that the commission usually establish monthly meetings. And at those meetings, as you noted in the document I sent, there's an appointed commission. The meetings are open to the public. So yes, council and anyone else in the city or whomever may attend those monthly meetings. But it would be just like this council, except it would be the commission and the 5 members, and of course the chair and some representatives from the state will be there. And they will conduct the meeting. It's really their meeting, and then anyone can come to listen to what's going on. The financial supervisor will present the fiscal information, which they have compiled either in conjunction with the fiscal director and also from their own. Like I said, they prepare their own data, but usually they compare to what our records say, and they take it from our source documents. So that's how I do the monthly meetings once they get started.
And again, once we will
Yeah,
have
once
this
the
down.
commission is set up, the first meeting is usually a training session in a sense, where they explain exactly what's going to take place, who will be the players, who can vote, and so on and so forth. But it's open to the public. So yes, anyone from council will be able to attend these meetings. It's usually recommended that they do come.
That answer your question?
Yes, pretty much, thank you.
Okay, good.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Mr.
regarding fiscal emergency, will this impact our budgeting process in the next month and a half?
We will,
How will
well, I'm sure it will eventually. We will have a budget meeting beginning on, well, first of all, we'll be presenting the budget on the 3rd, I'm assuming. No, that would be the 4th, March.
When the budget is prepared, it's subject to their review.
Right. But we will be looking at the
We prepare
budget.
the budget, the council and administration, and they will review it.
Is there a particular deadline prior to the April 1st deadline that they need to have it submitted to them by? So they have time to review it
No,
before the
not at
deadline?
this point, because the commission actually is not in effect, so that may or may not be a process, but they always have the right after the fact to come in to review it, to revise it, or whatever. But maybe before the April 1st deadline, that may not happen because we don't officially have a commission set up.
So maybe it will be a good time to announce that we will have a meeting on the 11th, which is the meeting Wednesday in between our 2 council meetings in March. And we're going to be, we'll have a special council meeting for the budget review. So if you want to mark that down, and then we'll also get a notice out to you as well. Oh, 6:30. What's good for the senior? 6:30. 6:30 is good for the worker people. Okay, any other announcements or commentary this evening? Yes, go ahead.
Just as a inquiry, Ms. Kroll, during your financial report, is there a way that, since we have so many people in the audience, and I think a lot of them are here to hear more about what's going on and exactly what fiscal emergency is, would you be able to address them and just do a little explanation of what's going on with the city?
Probably some of that may or may not be appropriate. There is a document that we will circulate for their reading, but basically they gave the when they report, but yes, they gave criteria and the conditions, and I can summarize those.
Thank you. Okay, I do want to remind council that there is an open meeting tomorrow night, and again, if you can't make it, make sure that you call to Okay, Caucus is completed at 7:04.